Ask what time is, and it will flee before you can answer. Light is a wave in the form of a grain. Existence is a fluctuation in the form of a definite, and the moment a fingertip touches it, all things have already moved to the next form. What does not flow decomposes. Stagnant water eventually becomes lees, and the lees sinks into the deepest darkness. Then, is there any other way to say that we are than to run through the moment as it is, without seizing the moment? At the moment when the movement itself transcends itself, when the movement eats the movement, when it rejects all frameworks, there appears an ultimate that can no longer be called life or death. It is the eternal now. It is an instant, but it is a pure flow that transcends even an instant, the climax of transformation. It cannot be obtained, but we can be with it. The trajectory of the bird slashing through the sky is as vivid as a blade, but when you look back, it dissipates into a book of emptiness in which nothing is engraved. The wind says, "I am here," but as soon as we touch it, it is already once. And before we can even determine the touch of our fingertips, the contours of reality waver, transcending the boundaries of matter and transforming into eternal silence. We search for the certain now in the wind, but it is more fleeting than a shadow in our hands. The critical point of silence, where life and death, beginning and end, stillness and movement, all opposites come infinitely close and merge. It is a torrent of nothingness, pregnant with the illusion of being. No stagnation means no time for stagnation. Then what is perfection? It is the name of the point where the flow exceeds the self and finally becomes flow itself. At this moment, I cease to be I and move into eternity as only a flowing thing. That moment is the ultimate. Time is an illusion of continuity. The moment of euphoria, where there is no separation between now and then, is where the ultimate in fluidity dwells. In the catalyst of the crumbling of the waves, the formless water forgets its own boundaries. When the wind passes, the atmosphere does not know what it was. This is the byproof of the flow without stagnation. One tries to resist this continuity by weaving words. But words are the blade that breaks the flow, the essence that makes it smoother. If thought, if being, meld together without resistance, beyond the perfect flow, everything fills without form and converges in an instant at its extremity. We forget that we are us, and only the fact of being flows silently and endlessly. The thought of capturing eternity is so fleeting that even its sound is inaudible. At each moment, it is not defined like a sharp blade, nor does it have a single form, but only branches off into 1,000 different forms. Everything continues to flow in a single now, swirling without a fixed point, swallowing itself and regenerating. If stagnation is stagnation, flow is pure liberation. When a momentary glimmer sublimates to the extreme, it is no longer even a moment. Only extremity stands there in a wordless language. Time is a chain of transparent moments, but it is also a track of never-ending flux. Just as light caresses the surface of water, time does not take form, but simply continues to weave through moments. If a moment appears as a pure one, it is not lasting, but is equivalent to a single bubble that spills out into eternity. The transparent particle dissolves in the eternal flow, blurring the distinction between the past and the future. However, the flow is never interrupted. While it is fixed in the moment of now, it moves on to the next now. There is no stagnation. There is no stagnation. When the pure flow reaches its ultimate point, do we really find ourselves, or do we lose it? What is reflected in the other side of the mirror is something that is self but is not self, which is constantly changing. If we try to touch the flowing water, it becomes another water at that moment, and we ourselves are also transformed in that instant when we touch it. If the moment is infinite, it is not the nothingness of time that stretches endlessly, but the trembling of a concentrated universe. It may be a vision that, by continuing to change without ceasing, leads to the ultimate stillness. Time unravels in an instant and vanishes into nothingness like a ripple. Everything in this world is in flux, and nothing is solid, not even a shadow. The now we gaze upon has already dissolved into the past, disappearing before we can remember it, losing its name before we can give it a name. Rivers do not remain rivers, clouds do not remain clouds, and the moment we realize our existence, they are already transformed into other forms. If the proof of existence that blinks at the edge of consciousness is the echo of the entire universe, then even calling it a moment is nothing more than a waste of time.